Hello and welcome to Off My Shelves, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the monumental Grant Morrison Batman Omnibuses, volumes 1 to 3, and yeah, we'll get underway. So Grant Morrison's omnibuses by DC come in oversized format, standard kind of omnibus oversized format, same size as oversized hardcover. They're all pretty much uniform apart from the dust jackets. Now the dust jackets are different and they do reflect the art on the interior as you go with each one, but underneath the dust jacket you get this wonderful kind of graphic art going on the side and on the back as well. Volume 2 actually mirrors the colours, so it swaps around the white and black, but then volume 3 goes back. All of them are totally uniform as well in terms of the build. They've all got really good binding, and the paper quality is something that I was really quite impressed with as well, because a few times I kind of thought the 2 pages were stuck together, but they never were, and that's testament to really good quality paper. They really are, for the price of these omnibuses, really very good indeed, to be honest, because you can still pick a lot of these up for around about the kind of, well, in Britain anyway, I picked up most of these for between £30 and £40, and for the size of book and for the quality of story, that's really good, I think. And so now, with the build of the book out of the way, we're going to get to the bulk of this video, which is the story, because this is collecting Grant Morrison's Batman run for a good long while. A great many years of Grant Morrison's work has gone into this Batman run, and it is dense with story. Each volume really does take in a section of his Batman story, the first volume being the introduction of Damian Wayne. Yeah, it sets off with a few little random scenes setting down the foundation of Bruce going through this kind of almost meditative reinventing of himself, but then quite early on Bruce comes up against the League of Assassins, led this time by Talia al Ghul, and she has got access to the Bat Serum, which has cropped his head up in a few of the Batman books over the years, and so she gives this Bat Serum to her League of Assassins, making Bat ninjas. Obviously that's a great way to start a run. It introduces pretty much one of the most important characters as well of this entire run, and I mean by all 3 volumes of that, and that's Damian Wayne, the son of Talia al Ghul and Bruce Wayne, and he is bred to be this perfect kind of assassin, intelligent, inheritor of the League of the Assassin and inheritor of the world essentially. But Talia wants him to spend some time with his dad, and so she sends Damian off to spend some time with Bruce, and that really kickstarts the story. In the Batman and Son story arc, a lot of the things that come way later on get introduced, so do pay attention from early on, because Grant Morrison has, like I said, has this amazing ability to really lay down foundations in issue 1 or 2 of his run, and then millions of issues later reference it. So if you were reading this monthly as it came out back in the day, I wouldn't know how you kept all of it in your head, to be honest. So it's nice that it's all in one place, that you can turn back pages to get those references, because you will find yourself doing that as well with this, and that's not a bad thing. That's just him layering his story up, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then that's the way it is, really. The first part of this book is strange in some ways, because outside of the Batman and Son little story arc with the Man-Bats and Damian being introduced, it's like lots of different sections of a story and nothing quite tying together, because it also introduces the idea of these 3 Batmen, 3 ghosts of Batmen, who are ex-policemen who have gone through different types of transformations, and they don in the Batsuit and being a rival to Batman in different ways. And that's the one thing I will say, is the 3 ghosts of the Batman, and a lot of the stuff in this run looks back at the mythology of Batman and takes it as a whole. It doesn't look back and think, oh, this is my Batman, he's this, he's this, he's this. Grant Morrison looks back at the whole Batman catalogue and picks and chooses whatever he wants, really, because he believes that this Batman is the same Batman that's been there forever, that's gone through all this different stuff, and so he cherry picks a random whatever he wants and whatever inspires him and connects with his story. But I would say, for anyone new reader, and I'm certainly not one of these Batman readers who've gone back into the catalogue massively, so a lot of the reference points I didn't fully understand and I didn't fully get, but it didn't matter, because the way they were introduced in this story they give a tiny little introduction to who that person is or to what this scene is, and that's enough really. You don't really need anything more. You don't need to know when that character first appeared back in the 1970s or 80s or whatever. And again, it references in loads of different points Frank Miller's Year One. But I don't think you would need to have read Year One to understand that. Yeah, it'll give you a bit of benefit, but ultimately it does a fine job of taking those references but not making them so aloof that you don't understand them. But either way, the first parts of the story do seem very kind of mishmash, and nothing really comes together massively until you start getting into the Black Glove storyline, I think. Batman the Black Glove, as I was saying, is really the point where it kicks off into another gear, I think. And that's all about this team of superheroes, a club of superheroes coming together and meeting on an island and referencing their past with Batman, their past encounters with Batman. And this island is basically been booby-trapped and it's been rigged, and it really introduces the idea of this Black Glove, this sinister organisation that's plotting behind the scenes, and it gets very in-depth. I mean, this organisation has been planning the demise of Batman for years previous to this run, really. They've been laying down the foundation to really rip Batman apart from inside, break him down mentally, break down all his allies, break down everything, and then get at him. And then all of this is leading up to the introduction of the leader of the Black Glove. He claims to be Thomas Wayne, the father of Bruce Wayne, and anyone who knows the mythos of Batman knows that Thomas Wayne died with Martha Wayne in Crime Alley, and so this throws up all manner of different problems. And when you get to the end of the omnibus, it starts the Batman R.I.P. Rest in Peace story arc, and that's really named that because a lot of the Black Glove's plans for Batman come into action, and they come into action by kind of stripping his mentality back. But then Bruce Wayne, planner as he is, has got many plans, and so he made a plan for even when he's out of control and lost his mind, he's got a fail-safe switch in his head that clicks, and yeah, you'll have to read to find out more about that. But he certainly creates a different persona, I'll say like that, to survive the ordeals of the Black Glove put him through. And by the time you get to the end, you're also introduced to the basics of Final Crisis, which you can certainly read in between Volume 1 and Volume 2, and it might increase your enjoyment of the series. But for me, I have read Final Crisis, and I don't think it's really essential. They do a great job of outlining what happens to Bruce Wayne after Batman R.I.P. and in Final Crisis, and they do a good enough job kind of laying down the foundations for you to understand what's happened to him in the aftermath. Because really what's happened to Bruce Wayne in the aftermath of Final Crisis is he is lost in time, and so he is cast by Darkseid through time, and that's basically where Volume 1 ends. Volume 2, I think, starts off with a boom, and this is really the highlight and low light of Grant Morrison's run, I think. So Batman is lost in time and he needs someone to replace him. So this starts off with the Batman and Robin series that is pretty much one of my favourite Batman runs ever, really. It starts off great with Frank Quitely, and his artwork is just amazing, really. And yeah, I just love Frank Quitely loads, and his artwork really starts off the series with a bang, and it introduces the new dynamic. Damian Wayne is back as Robin, Batman is Dick Grayson, and the two are getting to grips with being the new Batman and Robin, really. The one thing I will say is in the aftermath of Final Crisis, they do find a body of Batman, and they believe Batman to be dead, okay? They don't know that he's lost in time or anything like that, and so that again is outlined in here, and again you don't really need that extra information when you're reading it. But one of the main story arcs through this series is them trying to figure out if the body they found is actually Batman or not. But it starts off introducing a whole range of different bad guys, and it starts off great with the introduction of Professor Pig and all of these really mental and crazy bad guys. And yeah, the dynamic between Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne is fabulous. Damian Wayne as a character really shines in this story arc more than any other. Possibly Batman Incorporated really kind of cements my love for Damian Wayne as a character. But certainly in the first volume, he doesn't come across as a likeable or enjoyable character in any way, shape and form. But in here, he's really got a confidence and a swagger about him, which carries through to Batman Incorporated. And it doesn't come across as irritating as he possibly did in volume 1. All the stories that Batman and Robin go through are some of my favourite. They reintroduce kind of a Red Hood, who is a familiar returning character. They introduced a Squire and Knight who come before, and they go to Britain in search of Lazarus Pits to resurrect Bruce Wayne's body. And they also start off by investigating and searching out Wayne Manor for clues, because after they discover certain things about Bruce Wayne's body, they start to go on an investigative journey through the history of Wayne Manor and find certain things out, and then that starts a whole story arc. And then midway through this story arc, you get then the return of Bruce Wayne. Now obviously Bruce Wayne is going to return, which is why the series is named The Return of Bruce Wayne, but this for me is the low point of the series. And in here, The Return of Bruce Wayne is dotted throughout the Batman and Robin issues, kind of slotted in chronologically to where it should fit, and that's fine overall. But Batman and Robin, the writing and the art was so strong, and the characterisation of Dick Grayson and Damian so interesting to me, that when we are returning to the Bruce Wayne that everyone knows and loves, who is just randomly going through time, losing his memory every time the time jumps, and not understanding why he's going through time, and trying to really piece together what's happening to him, it's kind of jarring. Put on top of that then the fact that they intertwine Bruce Wayne travelling through time with his own mythology, so he's basically doing things that would later impact on him becoming Batman later on down the line. And I didn't like the fact that he was always destined to travel back through time to do this, so Batman would do this, to do that, so Batman would find that. And it was all a bit too on the nose, tying him in so heavily with his own family's mythology. And yeah, it was fine, and the artwork, and it was great to see Bruce Wayne in these different scenarios, you know, in being a cowboy, being a pirate, being in the Stone Age prehistoric period, and all these different time periods. But equally, for me, I just wanted to read more Batman and Robin, and that might be the big problem for me personally, is I didn't want to interrupt Batman and Robin because I was enjoying reading that story arc so much. When they've overcome him going through time, when they've overcome Professor Pig, the Flamingo, and that's another thing actually, is layering. I mean, you see the Flamingo in volume 1, just one panel, and then nothing comes of that character until you get to, well, pretty much halfway through the Batman and Robin. He comes in as a major big character who enjoys eating faces, which again is another testament to the crazy weirdness of the enemies that Batman and Robin come up against, Damian and Dick Grayson come up against, because they are mental nuts. I mean, disgusting nuts. But either way, at the end of volume 2, Bruce Wayne really introduces the idea of teaming up with Batman to the public and starting a worldwide organisation called Batman Incorporated. So Bruce Wayne basically returns and says, I'm going to fund Batman and the foundation of a worldwide vigilante kind of network. And that's really where volume 3 kicks off. Now, for my money, Batman volume 3 is one of the most consistent story arcs in the whole series, really, because this very much starts off with quite a direct idea. Batman starting off a world organisation because he believes certain things are in progress and certain things are going to happen, and to deal with it he needs an organisation that spans the world and is multifaceted in different ways. And so he starts recruiting heroes that he's worked with in the past to be a Batman of that city or that area. And yet again with Grant Morrison, the first issue of this omnibus is massive. Everything that's kind of outlaid and put forward in this first issue, when you read it, you're like, what the hell was all that? None of it kind of made much sense. There's no real end to it. It seems like almost a random series of scenes. But when you get into the story, and when you way later on, you really do kind of get a payoff for all of this. And the artwork in volume 3, again, like volume 2, is really high and consistent and really great in general, really. You've got Chris Burnham doing some artwork in here, being the most kind of consistently used artist in this entire run, Chris Burnham, and his artwork is fabulous. But Batman Incorporated start hearing whispers of an organisation called Leviathan, and Leviathan really is an organisation that they have to go up against, and Leviathan absolutely tear down and destroy everything that Bruce Wayne and Batman are trying to build, and he's really fighting against them, but on a global scale, really. This has got some of the best action set pieces in comics that I've ever read. By the time Batman Incorporated really builds up and you get to some real kind of high octane amazing action scenes in the end, they are brilliantly drawn by Chris Burnham, and really just you want to read more because they're so outlandish, and because you were ready for them, because your characters have been kind of beaten up and bruised, and when they really step up their game, you're like, yes, and then the action scenes deliver on that as well and really pay off. This is very much kind of another story that's focused inevitably on Damian Wayne as well. Damian Wayne, his relationship with his father and his mother are central to this. And I would argue, I think Grant Morrison might have said it himself, but Grant Morrison's entire run, really, when you get to the end of it, you realise it's much more of a Damian Wayne storyline than a Batman storyline, even though you follow Batman in many different parts of it. But either way, it is one of the strongest kind of Batman runs that I've read, and it does have highs and it does have lows, and for me though, it is well worth a look. Each one of these diversifies massively within it. You get a slightly different Batman, a slightly different approach with the artists, a slightly different storyline. You get crazy ways of presenting the story as well, to be honest. It really is a massively creative mixed bag, but well worth your time, I think. But there we go anyway. I hope I've done some justice to explaining this massive collection of books, because it is pretty difficult to get across this story. But either way, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next one.